Hello guys, I've joined again. I wanted to discuss overviews what we have read till what we have discussed in previous sessions. We have learned about objects, classes, data abstraction, and encapsulation, all object-oriented programming concepts we have already discussed. Today we will be starting fresh new topic of inheritance. But and but if, but in previous class we have discussed about constructors and properties and access modifiers. Hope you all are up to date with it. If you are not, don't worry. We will be discussing some concepts of previous session here. So let's start with inheritance. So inheritance defines relationships among classes. So in programming, we also have relationships. We create relationships. As in real life, family has a relationship. Like a child will get inherit its features from her mother and father. Same way, we can define classes and get its properties inherited from uh, super classes, from parent classes. So the in the same way, like in real life, we inherit features, and the same way we can inherit features of a class to other class. So let me read this definition. It it is a mechanism in C sharp by which one class is allowed to inherit features, fields, and methods in of other another class. You know what fields and methods are. So that's another how we will how we use inheritance, how we define inheritance. So before inheriting a class, we have to define a class. So at the first line of this program, I will define a class. If it is not okay, do tell me if fonts are small. I can zoom from here. I zoom it a little bit. So, so at the first we will define a class which we will inherit. I have written a class father which has a member which has a method smile, and what this smile method does, it writes father can smile at console in console. I write another class son. Now look how I have inherited father in son class. I write a colon and then class name. Sorry, in previous slide I didn't write the syntax for it, but I hope you guys will understand here by this line itself. I write class name, then colon, and then class name of the name of class which needs to be inherited. Oh, sorry. And now I define the methods of son class. It contains run method which will write in console son runs faster. Okay, I have defined all classes. So I will write a main method where we will create an object of class and call the methods. Now what will happen here when I inherit? Uh, let's see by example again. Here, when a son gets features inherited from mother and father, do do father get inherit features from son or mother? Son, no. Only son get inherited features from his father. His father will get inherit its features inherited from his father. Like same way, when we inherit a class, son will get access to members of father class. Son class will get access to the members of father class. And what methods father class contains? It contains smile method, which says father can smile. So keep in mind that son has access to the father class members smile function, smile method. Now let's move to main function where we will create an object from a father class and from father class and son class. And we will see how it works. So we will create father to create an object. We write class name father. We write reference name a variable. Father is a reference variable which contains object of father type. And look, whenever we create object, we use concept of constructor. This is a call to a constructor, which we have discussed in previous session. So we create an object of father, and with father object, we can call smile method. When we call smile method, program will give output of this. In third line here, I have created object of son and called smile function, smile method. So look, I have access to father's method. Uh, uh, Let me open Visual Studio, then explain you, then write this. I will copy this code and execute this code, and I will make you look how outputs will be. I hope it doesn't get error. My screen doesn't get any patch, so it's working fine. Let's clean all this code. I'm only having namespace. Namespace is a collection of classes where we store classes. Copy from a PowerPoint, so it won't take time. It won't take much time. So see, copy main function, main method. Namespace. So same way we have written public class father, defined the class father, we defined son, and we inherited values of father class. I wrote a main method. Let's only run this code. If it doesn't get error, it will execute. It doesn't have any. No, there's some typing error. Delete all other classes. It's something copy. It's you have to correct this. It won't take much time. Once this is fixed, we will run all the other codes in the same way. So there will be no error. Now let's run this code. Okay, once again. Expected. Okay. Sorry for all those build errors. Now we will have some executed code. Now I have to explain. Look, when I created with father class, I accessed smile method and wrote father can smile. With son class, with son object, I access method of father. Father can smile. With the son object, again, so, okay, I should read this. Now with son object, of course, I can access the method of access method which is defined in son class. For formality, I'm writing here. Let's run. It will say sun runs faster. Now let's use father object to call method of sun. That is run method. It will get X error. Okay. It is not. It will not give me to run. So it will give build error. Father does not contain definition of for run. So we understand that father doesn't have any access to this code. Now let's get back to PowerPoint. Minimize this. Um, in next slide, we will discuss types of no. So let's some terminologies of inheritance. Superclass is something which inherits, whose features are inherited is known as superclass. So this is superclass. His features will be inherited in class B, which is a derived class, which will be called derived subclass or child class. Subclass that inherits the other class is known as subclass. Reusability, it is a feature of inheritance that we can use codes that are defined in a class again and again using inheritance features. That is this terminology reusability. This is feature of inheritance. So after I have talked about overview, now we will learn about types of inheritance, and Kamini will explain types of inheritance.
Yes.
Using control to Kamini. You can share Kamini your screen now.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Vishal. Uh,
Welcome.
is my screen is visible?
No,
Okay, well, now it's visible.
now it's visible.
Okay. So as Vishal already told that types of inheritance. So there are different type of inheritance, and the first one is single inheritance. And in single inheritance, is a basically there is a one base class and there is one derived class. So it called a single inheritance. And I give you one example of it. Uh, it's called class regular polygon, which is a base class, and we inherit polygon in another class which is square, and we had inherited regular polygon in square class. Okay, so and we mentioned already a method called calculate perimeters, and we also put the parameters also. So and we've created that methods, and we will run this. And yeah, and we have created a class object of class, and we called both method. Okay, so we only created an object of class. We are not creating an object of a base class. So and we, yes, this is a
Kamini, are you
let
sharing your Visual Studio?
yes, it's not showing.
So we have your PPT visible right now.
Okay, now it's visible, right?
It's visible now.
Yeah. So once again, I will tell you. Um, there's a one base class called regular polygon, and inside class we have created method, and there's also parameters of it. Uh, and we have created another class, and we inherit the regular polygon class in it. And we there also we have created a method called calculate area, and we will only make a, object of object of square class, and we call both method in it. Okay, so here we make a as an object of square class, and we call both method in it, and we will execute it. So it will display both of the method, like area of the square and perimeter. So
Uh, Hello,
we have
Kamini.
inherit the property of a regular
Your
polygon class also. Yeah, so
your output screen is not visible, like it's coming blank.
okay, I can share the whole window. Okay, okay, now I'll execute again. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have only created one class object, and we call both method in different classes. So it it inherit or the property we have called in class object. Okay, so and the next one is hierarchical of inheritance, and in this multiple derived class inherit from one single base class. So there will be a different base derived class, and only a one there will be only one base class. Okay, so suppose like all the features are common in the child classes and include in the base classes. Okay, for example, like physics, chemistry, biology are derived from the class science, we can say that. Or so I'll give you one example of it. In here also, in this is the base class, as we already I mentioned that regular polygon is the base class, and the square class square is a derived class, and there is another class called rectangle, which is also a derived class, and in which we have inherited polygon class, and if in rectangle we inherited the class polygon also. So it inherited the property of polygon class, regular polygon class, as well as the derived class. Okay, so now we both in both class we have created a square object of square class and object of rectangle class, and in both we have created we object and we call method, and it will execute the method of the derived class as well as the base class. So if we will execute it, it will execute the square of area and perimeter and area of rectangle. As I mentioned that area of perimeter we call two times, that's why it's print perimeter. Okay, like, so there is only one base class in we inherited all the property of base class, and we call at the time of creation of object, and we call the method at that time. And another type is a multi-level inheritance. In multi-level inheritance, a derived class inherit from base class, and the same and then the same derived class act as a base class for another class. Like for example, like first that is a grandfather, father and son. So son will be act as a derived class. Okay, so I will explain in example briefly. Uh, Here it is a class son which inherit father, and we firstly we created the object. Okay, so there is a class grandfather, and we display the we created the method display method, and there's again a class father which inherit the grandfather, and there is a method display one method, and it will display the father. So here what is happening? That is the sun is the derived class, but it is acting as a base class over here. So it will print That is, the father is the base class, then the grandfather is a base class, then after the father, after the son. Okay, if we will execute it, it will. Yes. In object creation time, if we like suppose if we want to display only the base class, so we will, it will only call the method of base class. And there is another type of method, which is hybrid inheritance. Basically, hybrid inheritance is a combination of two or more type of inheritance, and the combination of multi-level and hierarchical inheritance is an example of hybrid inheritance. So, yeah, it is a combination of type of multi-level and hierarchical inheritance, which describe and yes. So in hybrid inheritance, there is a we don't use we use in as an interface in C sharp. So for details, Vishal will continue with interface to tell the details about hybrid inheritance, because in C sharp we use hybrid interface inheritance as an interface, like all the details. Okay, so Vishal,
Yes, Kamini?
yeah, over to you. You can tell the details about the interface.
Yeah, sure. So from here, I'm taking the control and I will share my screen. I hope this time I don't get any black patches. Okay. My screen is my screen visible?
Yes, yes, Vishal.
Yes, Vishal, it's visible.
Okay, now let's move to for my activity. Discuss type. So we will be starting multiple inheritance now. She has discovered all rest of four inheritance. Now, when we start with multiple inheritance, don't think you have to know that we don't have multiple inheritance in C sharp directly. We can't. C sharp doesn't support multiple inheritance. Yes, C sharp doesn't support multiple inheritance. And why it doesn't support multiple inheritance, we will be talking more about it. But before, what multiple inheritance is, let's talk about that. In multiple inheritance, a single derived class inherits from multiple base class like this. Two base class are there, and there is one child class. In real life, you can assume your multiple inheritance from a child. He inherits its features from his mother and father. So he has two base classes. So you can assume father has one base class and mother has another base class, and a child has a child class. So we have a real world example of multiple inheritance. Now move to C sharp side of multiple inheritance. So C sharp doesn't support multiple inheritance, but still we can achieve multiple inheritance. through interfaces. What this interface is, we will we will definitely explain this stuff in next slide. Before why, before let's read about why we cannot have multiple inheritance through classes in C sharp. Yes, interface is a type of class. I'm giving some pre-information here. So multiple inheritance cannot be implemented through normal classes because of ambiguity problem. What this ambiguity problem is, you can see I have written a class. Here I have two methods with name test, same name test method. So C sharp C sharp compiler doesn't allow two methods with same name and same parameter. If you try to write this code, it will give build error. And think, if you have to implement multiple inheritance using classes, you will think this is a class. You have written a method test method. You have written a method. I think this class A contains the method test. This class B contains the method test. Same method, and you are inheriting class C from A and B. Let me write syntax how we inherit multiple inheritance. An example. We'll write class name like class C. Okay, class C, and write colon. We have to define modifiers. I'm not doing that right now. For explanation, we will write class A, comma, class B. This will be inherit two classes to a child class. So I was here that class A contains test method, class B contains test method with same name, same parameter. When I will inherit both the classes, and when I call the method test in, when I will create an object C and call the method test, the compiler will get in ambiguity of which test method should I call. So that's why we don't implement multiple inheritance through classes directly. But interface we can. And how? Before we have to know about interface. Let's move to the next slide. Interface. An interface is a completely abstract class which can only contain abstract methods and properties with empty body. So here you have to be alert that interface is a complete abstract class. And in previous sessions, during when we were discussing abstraction of object-oriented programming, we have discussed about abstract classes. Even if you don't know, let me give a brief overview. Abstract class is a class something which doesn't have which have abstract methods and properties and fields. And main feature of abstract class is that we cannot create object of that class. We cannot instantiate the object of that class directly. To create object of that class, we have to inherit that abstract class to another class. Then we can create object. So we have got to understand that what abstract class is. So interface is also an abstract class, but we can say interface is a pure abstract class. Here, interface is a pure abstract class, which allows us to define only abstract methods. Abstract method is something which doesn't have any body. Okay. So when I say it is a pure abstract class, it means that when I'm explaining again abstract class. The difference between interface and abstract class is abstract class methods can have a non-abstract method, but interface contains only abstract methods, which means its methods and bodies will be empty, which will we will only declare methods in interface. I know it will be confusing through theory. I will show in Visual Studio in a little time. Let's read more about interface. By default, members of interface are abstract and public. So you understand? Interface contains abstract method. But if I have written an abstract class can contain non-abstract method too. It can contain abstract method also, but it can contain non-abstract too. So whenever we want to have pure abstract class, make a pure abstract class, we use interface. Note, interface can contain properties and methods, but not fields. So this is a note. What fields are? Fields are normal variables and properties we have discussed in previous session. Nikhil discussed previous session properties. Still, I explained this. Properties is nothing but a variable with mm, member with method combined. We have some methods like get, set in property. So we have discussed this here. So now, why we use interface? It is used to achieve full abstraction. Remember, if you remember, when I was discussing about abstraction in object-oriented programming session, I said we implement abstraction through abstract classes and interface. And I've said that at that time I said that interface we will discuss in later. So to achieve full abstraction, we use interface because it does not contain a method body. That means it contains only pure, I mean, abstract method. An abstract method doesn't have body. And I have defined abstraction here. Abstraction is something hiding implementation details from outside world or classes. Outside world is your classes. So now let's see interface, more about interface. So how we write interface and we implement multiple inheritance. We will discuss here, we will write here, we will see here. So to write an interface, we write keyword interface and we define interface name. Remember, always use capital I before any interface. It is a good practice to write any interface. If you want Apple as an interface, write iApple. It will differentiate any programmer that you have written an interface. I mean, you are using interface here. So it is same as we define in class. We write a method, this void method. Look, this is a void method. Method it doesn't have any body. It only have definition here. I mean declaration here. Another interface very I have defined here with void display method. So I have written same method. Both the interface have same method name. But when I will run this code in program, this will get no error. If write class here, if I define this as class and run the code, it will get error. I will explain that too, why it happens. Let's move further to this code. I have defined here class, test class, a class which will inherit its properties from to both the upward defined interfaces, interface one, interface two. Now I've defined a class, defined what this does. This provides implementation to this methods. And in this method, we are writing a code to write in console that providing body to interface. And here I have written normal, I have created normal class, and I mean I have created an object of the class, and then I use that object to call the method of test class. Now see this in, now let's move to Visual Studio and see what will happen after I write code. Even though I've written here output of the program, let's see there. So again, I've defined interface. two interface has been defined here with same method name. A class is there which is inheriting properties from above two classes, above two interfaces. Now there is a void method which give definition to the methods defined here in interfaces, display method. So here main method, we create test class object of this class, test, and after we use that object T to display the method, this method, to call this method display. Then when I call this method, this will only print this message. Will give not much info because I'm just running this code to give this implementation. So idea was that it gives inheritance, multiple inheritance. Test class get multiple inherited from about to interface. Now let's see if I have defined class, what would have happened. Class, I have defined, I'm going to define this as class. This public. Interface. Okay, let me delete this interface keyboard here. That's already showing some errors. Rest of the code would be same, but it will not run. Definitely, we know that. Will fail. So class test cannot have multiple base class. Got it? C# doesn't allow multiple base class tests to inherit from multiple base classes. A single class to inherit from multiple base classes. But we can implement multiple inheritance through interface. Let's move to. So if anybody have any doubt, they can ask because we are at the last of the session. We are at the end of the session. Hybrid inheritance has been discussed by Kamini. So if anybody have any doubt with interface or any topic discussed over here, they can ask. And so hybrid inheritance is a mixture of two or more above type of inheritance. Means you can combine two of any above defined inheritance and make it hybrid interface. C# doesn't support hybrid interface. However, we can achieve multiple inheritance through interfaces. So we have understood the concept of interface. So I don't think I have to discuss the coding of this. Uh, I'm stopping my sharing screen. If anybody has doubt, they can ask, and we will end the session here. As today is the last day of the year, I will not brain drain much more. Anybody? So we will end this session here. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you all to
Thank you.
join this session.
All